Simone? Jack speaks tenderly. The Terran opens her eyes, drenched in sweat and shaking. She sits up, tightly wrapped in the bed's blanket. Rubbing her face against her shoulder, she cleans her wet face. What happened? She asks, before her vision can fully focus. We boarded the ship, remember? Dave gave you some medicine to help sleep. Are you feeling all right? Chuck's voice informs. I just remember sitting down in the elevator. Did that person chase us? The redhead says, as she looks around, seeing no sign of the Callie. Just before she asks what's going on, the room's door opens. Chuck walks in, carrying in a tray, blowing Simone's mind for the briefest of moments, until she remembers that she is wearing a comm. Right. Chuck and I are certain that we departed as soon as we boarded. How are you feeling? You were vocalizing in your sleep, the Callie informs as she draws close to the bedside. Need a shower, but otherwise fine. What did I say? Simone replies. Well, you didn't say words, really. Just some loud screaming, I suppose, Chuck admits, as she sets the tray down on the bed. Ah, yeah, sorry, that must have scared the shit out of you. Simone shrugs, embarrassed. Certainly threw me into a bit of a panic. I woke you up and you said something about it being a bad dream. Then you fell right back to sleep. I asked Dave about it and he said it was unfortunately expected, but he will attempt to modify your medication to perhaps help. I have a dose for you here and I bought you some breakfast with it. Seven made you some scrambled eggs, brown hashes, sausages, and your caffeine coffee, Chuck informs, before tapping her lowered appendage on the tray playfully. Simone gives the provided sustenance a quick look before returning her sights on Jack, who is now walking around to the Terran side of the bed. Did I thrash around at all? Didn't hurt you, did I? She asks, although the Callie is visibly in perfect health. Oh no. You did steal the blanket and tightly curl up, Chuck answers, as she sits herself right next to the bundled redhead. And don't worry, my people are very alert sleepers. We don't require such a deep state of unconsciousness, so I can be out of harm's way very quickly. The Terran wants to ask if it's still worth the risk, but she knows the answer, so she instead unwraps herself and carefully lifts the tray onto her lap. Thanks, Simone says softly, with a small smile forming. Anything for you, Chanya? Chuck assures, before giving the redhead's temple a kiss. The translator kicks in for that last word, saying, life companion. Lean a bit into the princess. Simone's smile spreads as her inattentions unwind. I don't think I've been served breakfast in bed since I was a kid, she reminisces aloud, before taking a sip of the hot, bitter tar of goodness. Oh, from your father, I assume? Chuck says. Yep. I had something that was going around the colony at the time, and we didn't really have the boosters to go around. For a week, that man woke me up with burnt bacon, burnt toast, and burnt eggs, all drenched with cheap banana ketchup. The only thing not burnt was the surprise sodas, each day a different flavour, and I loved it, Simone confirms, stuffing her mouth with hash browns. I know I talk him up a lot, but that man, he was a single parent that did the lifting of 10. Despite me being a little shithead half the time, he always knew exactly what to say, what to do, and how to be. I don't say this lightly, but the whole universe is lesser without him. I believe it. But he did give the universe you, something I will be forever grateful for, the Callie adds, as she comfortingly rubs circles to the Terran's back. I guess, but my mother was somehow involved with those Gaia fucks, and possibly everyone I considered family, the ones I killed. There's a part of me that thinks my dad knew something about it all, but he reminds me to be exactly the opposite of what they wanted to conform me into. Was he preparing me? Or was he just some guy my mother chose to use, and I just lucked out? Simone says, her tone more confused than angry. Perhaps. Dave will figure out what's exactly in your head and we'll find answers, Chuck poses, unsure of a better answer. Maybe. Or maybe it'll just complicate things even more with additional bullshittery questions. I'm already drowning in them. Like, who the fuck was that asshole on the station? Simone asks. Oh, I believe it was some bounty hunter. They must have noticed who I was and made an opportunistic attempt, Chuck reasons. Unless you think otherwise. Nah, that makes sense. Guess I'm just a bit paranoid. We did have eyes on us the whole time being there. The Terran agrees with a shrug. Sorry for losing my cool with Cartfuck, by the way. Do deserved it, but it was stupid. Very stupid. You've been through a lot recently, Simone, I understand, Chuck immediately assures, brushing her claws through the Terran's fur. Simone's initial reflexive reaction is to press the issue, but the sort of way thoughts about it all start coming to the forefront of her mind. Her mouth opens and she speaks them out loud to finally make sense of all these bubbling feelings. Having my past flipped on his head? Is all that shit I went through pointless? All those times I endured an episode, relieving all that pain, all that self-hatred, questioning every aspect of why it happened? All because it was a lie? All those people I would have gladly died for just wanted to indoctrinate me? I know this now, but the scars are still there. I still feel like I knew them. that they were my family and all their looks of betrayal were real. How can I be both relieved that they were monsters and still feel this way? Why can't it go away now? I still feel like a murderer. Why? She rants, her food utensil in hand, shaking free the recently added clump of eggs. Embracing her fiancé from the side, Chak hugs as tight as she can manage. Because you love them fiercely. You hold so much love, just like your father. They betrayed their love, and you couldn't simply turn it off, she states, without a scrap of doubt in her words. The Kelly guides Simone's face to look at her, and wipes away the leaking eye water. Simone, it wasn't your fault. We will help you fully believe that someday, I promise. The redhead has no words. Thank you doesn't even cover the feeling of trust and awe she has to be in a genuine family. Even the parts in her head that argue that she will get hurt again are ineffectually blunted. Never has she wished so hard to give this woman a real Terran-grade hug in return. Instead, she nods and presents a sausage and offering with a light-hearted smirk. The Cully accepts it, a bit confused. I think I know what the main topic for my next session with Vin is going to cover, Simone muses, in an accepting sigh. Want to watch a show or something with me? I think I'm just going to stay in bed today. I'll fucking shower tomorrow. The Callie's eyes flash before she excitedly bounds over the Terran's legs to cuddle up on her other side. Absolutely, she declares, once all nestled up. Chuck then takes a nibble from the sausage as she activates her lens and begins scrolling through their favourite shows. After a week of traversing into Wataf territory, Chuck Nuck remains sure to remain on designated traverse lanes. Although travelling straight to a Wataf outpost or station may have taken a far shorter time frame, the Wataf are severely strict with where incoming vessels are allowed to go. Thankfully, the first military checkpoint is theoretically all they need to reach, and now they are coming up to it. After such a significant detour, the finish line is now in sight. Several patrol warships take preemptive aim at the significantly meeker lone retrofitted Cali yacht. Between them is a small habitation network station for incoming ships to check in with. Vessel Martyrs Cripchap, please disable all forms of armament and state your business. A communication line comes in. At least they said please, Chalknut muses, as he deactivates the Cripchap's weapons and opens the line. This is the captain of the Cripchap. We have a vital transport of Watathlings that we intend to return to their uncles by request of their mother. There is a pause before the reply comes in. Please send any available verification and sail your vessel to these coordinates. Expect further instructions after we verify your claim. The response finally orders. Affirmative, Chalknock agrees, as he allows the autopilot to guide the ship to the precise position where the Wataf communicator commanded. As it does so, the captain opens his comm to the princess. Chocolate Motas, we're at the Wataf checkpoint. Would you please forward me verification of the Watathling's mother's final request? He asks. Oh, of course. Sending copies to your console now, Chuck says, doing so as fast as she is able. What's up? Simone says as she sets her waist down. It seems we are very close to handing over the Watathlings. Chuck notifies, bouncing excitedly on the desk she sat upon while watching the Terran exercise. Shit, that's awesome. About time too. Fingers crossed it's a smooth transfer, the redhead replies as she starts to wipe her sweaty face with a towel. Crossing digits. Is a good fortune ritual for Terrans? Chuck inquires curiously. Yeah, but it can also mean that you don't keep promises. Weird, but honestly sounds about right for us Terrans, Simone explains before she steps out of the pseudo-workout room with Chuck close behind. Well, you keep your promises, so I'm not worried in the slightest, the princess says, pressing up against the Terran's side as they walk. Simone responds with a smirk. At the very least, we've managed to get all those kids here, right before they're supposed to leave the canister too. I guess Karas was right. We have a thing for timing. Indeed. I'm glad her children will be okay, Nikali agrees. As the two move from crew's quarters hallway and around to the opposing hallway, they look down to the cargo bay to see the two grats resting away. Despite Simone helping them work out, they still have quite a bit of unspent energy afterwards, so they've been permitted to use the cargo space as a play space at certain times to help. Thankfully, there haven't been any incidents thus far, and they are very mindful if anyone needs to cross. They watch as Miki is able to pin Nodrin and chitter in victory. As she does so, she peeks up at the audience and exposes her sharp uniform teeth in a smile. Simone, feeling better? She calls up, her bombmate still scrumming under her. You bet. Not at 100 yet, but getting there, the redhead responds. I challenge you then. Come down. I want to see how I can contend with a mighty Terran, Miki summons in a great bravado. It would be fun. Chuck looks up to Simone, who seems to consider it for a brief moment. Then the Terran holds over the soiled towel. Hold this for me while you watch, Simone says. Not even hesitating for a standard second, Chuck snatches the towel and nods rapidly. Giving the Kelly a wink, she lunges over the railing and superhero lands down in the cargo bay. Fuck my fucking knee, Simone curses under her breath, before she springs back upright, keeping her cool otherwise. Remember, you asked for this, she addressed the female Grat, who finally releases an amused Nodrin. Simple rule. First a pin and grab the tail of... Oh, right. Terrans don't have one. Mickey trails off, looking over the Terran for something equivalent to grab, but isn't satisfied with anything apparent. Tell you what, pin me for 3 standard seconds and you win. How's that? Simone offers in a chuckle. Agreed, Mickey says, before charging the Terran without warning. Genuinely impressed by this, Simone reached out her hand, snatching the Grat's chest. Using the momentum against her friendly opponent, she rotates and slams her to the floor. She may have done it harder than intended, but is incredibly relieved to see that other than being a bit shell-shocked, the Grat continues the match with excited wild eyes. Mickey attempts to twist away from the Terran's grip, or trying to trip her up with kicks. However, as soon as the match started, it had ended with a tug on her tail. I like a rematch, she merely demands. Alright, Simone shrugs before stepping away. This time the Terran is ready for a sudden rush, but the Grat takes her time. Using her 4 eyes, she tends to pick out any sort of weakness to exploit. She is outmatched in strength alone, but perhaps she could... Moving up, she concentrates this effort to tripping the Terran by hooking her foot behind the redhair's ankle and sharply pulling. It does absolutely nothing, for Simone's well-balanced stance is firmer than stone. Before there can be a counterattack, Mickey lifts both her hands in the air and steps away. I cannot best you. Not yet, that is. She forfeits. Ah, just when it was getting fun, Simone teases with a wink. Unless you both wanted to team up, she offers, looking back to the observing Nodrin. Wouldn't it be difficult to pin us both? Nodrin inquires, clearly interested. Maybe, but honestly I just want to see if you can pin me at all, Simone provokes, with an exaggerated shrug. Of course we can, Mickey declares as she runs up with the Terran, taking that as confirmation of the match. Simone stands in place as the female collides into her front. Like a football player, she tackles at the Terran's midsection and attempts to knock her over. From the impact alone, Simone staggers back a few steps, to then suddenly have Nodrin leap up on her back and pull in reverse. The Grat on her back makes her top heavy enough to nearly send her down. Nearly. The redhead grabs at the piggyback rider and thrusts in a forward lean, cutting them free from her. For the one still pressing at her front, she does nothing but stand in place with her hands on her hips. She lets out a laugh as Mickey pressed on with wriggling jolts. She's certainly just as strong as a Terran her size, but Simone's broad mass and training prove the superior. At least until one of her legs from behind is unexpectedly pulled out from under her. Being so caught up, she fails to see Nodrin sneaking back around to go for her leg. Simone attempts to catch herself as she pulls back, but the persistence of Mickey makes that near impossible. Her back slams into the floor, and before she knows it, each grab pressed down together on both of her shoulders. For a moment, it seems the couple are victorious, but they severely miscalculated something. Thick Terran arms. Culling them together in a simultaneous fast motion, Simone ensnares each Grat in a crushing bear hug from each of her arms. They both squeal and chitter maddeningly as they resist to break free. However, it's in vain, as Simone only squeezes tighter. Better surrender, Simone laughs out. Never, Mickey retaliates in great strain, squirming all the more. But it becomes apparent that the 2 Grats' boundless energy does indeed have its limit. After a straight standard minute of attempting to free themselves, both Grat go limp from exhaustion. Victory is yours, Nodrin confers with the 2 of them. Like 2 uncoiling snakes, Simone's arms unwrap from the 2, leaving the 3 sprawled on the ground in recovery. Better luck next time, Simone snickers as she sits upright and grunts out as she pushes herself to her feet. I look forward to it. We have learned, Mickey vows in a sporting huff. Simone gives the 2 a casual salute before ascending the stairs back up to the Callie's location. Somehow, it's more scary to watch when you are not trying to kill one another, Chuck informs the Terran as she walks her to the spa door. Princess, Simone, we may have a problem, Jocknock suddenly calls in. The 2 share a concerned look before responding. What's wrong? Simone asks. The Watathlings checkpoint is requesting confirmation for any Terrans aboard, and to send over any extensive records of said Terrans. Considering your history, Miss Thatch, I'm uncertain of what sort of reception your record may bring, the captain reports. Simone bit at her cheek. Though this wasn't expected, it's no surprise. Perhaps I can take the Watathlings in the shuttle with me and meet them on my own, Chuck offers. No, they'll just see that as suspicious, Simone dismisses. She considers the very real possibility that those stationed at the checkpoint may not take kindly to her presence. Then what should we do? Chuck asks, looking up to the Terran with trusting eyes. Send them everything, Jocknock. Better to be crystal clear with them. If they think we're trying to hide something, it won't end well, Simone grunts, before turning into the spa. I'll wash down real quick. Get your armor ready to throw on at a moment's notice, she directs at Chuck. Ow! All right, the caddy replies, the nerves in her voice all too apparent. Choknok's throat clicks during the long radio silence after sending all the requested information. The warship's weaponry has not shown any sort of activity, so at least there's that. Though considering the high tensions between the Wataf and Terrans, this should have been a foreseeable concern. Any Terran Union military personnel operating within Wataf territories could very easily spark another form of conflict between the two peoples. Simone is right. If this is to all go smoothly, then transparency is absolutely key. Though of course there's no guarantee of no hostilities regardless. So as he waits, Choknok prepares several potent routes of escape in case weapons are discharged. Though to his relief, the checkpoint eventually does make contact again. The related guardians have been informed and have agreed to take in the children of Kiraz. However, they wish to accept them personally from the courier, as is their right. You have been granted temporary permission to meet at checkpoint 3. But be warned, you'll be marked as a potential liability to the security of the Wataf Star Navy. Thus, your ship and all who dwell within will be terminated if deemed a threat. Comply with all instructions and no harm will befall you. Do you accept these terms? As if the trained warship's given much choice, Choknok probably answers. The terms set forth are indeed acceptable. You are free to sail onward to checkpoint 2, sending verification codes for your arrival. With that, Choknok allows the ship's navigation systems to direct the ship into FDL along the designated lane. Decompressing from that tense weight, he sulks into his seat a bit. This could still end badly, but at least they are moving forward in their objective. By the time the Cryptchap exits out of fast and light travel on his second jump, and checkpoint 3 is in view, the captain drops his newly attained brew. As the fluid spreads across the floor under his seat, he sits in shock as an entire supercarrier vessel with hundreds of preemptively deployed fighters awaits like a wall of death. More weapons are trained on the Cryptchap at this moment than all before combined. Fleeing would be a hilariously pointless effort, as the yacht could be reduced to atoms in seconds. So the captain quickly sends the second batch of verification codes to the small station, and makes damn sure to keep his graspers clearly avoiding any sorts of weapon system on his own. Though he doubts they can visibly see him, the effort is still made. There's an awkward span of time as he awaits any manner of communication, almost missing the Meek attention for the first checkpoint. Cryptchap, your codes are being verified. Keep your ship stagnant right where it is. We are now sending the envoy and guardians. Prepare to host them. Understood, is all the captain can say in return, still utterly flabbergasted. He jumps in his seat as a fleet-armed Terran grasper rests on his shoulder. He looks up at Simone, who eyes the ships ahead with no fear, just simple confusion. In all my years, Miss Thatch, never have I seen such a show of force with something so comparatively insignificant. All this for a single cluster of children? The captain says, finding it hard to wrap his mind around. Simone slowly shakes her head. You haven't dealt with the Wataf Navy much, have you? This isn't a battle formation, it's a ceremonial one, she points out. See how the fighters are arranged? Connect the dots and it makes their symbol for the crossing into the afterlife. So it's a warning, is it? Choknok asks. A bit, but not really. They are basically saying we present you the gateway into the afterlife. May our ancestors on the other side watch over this meeting. It's also implied that they could send us there if needed, so let's play it cool. Don't piss them off, and they will have no reason to blow us the fuck up, the redhead says, carefully patting the Trumple's shoulder. But all this was such a transfer, Choknok reiterates. Yep, they take their ceremonies very seriously. In a way, they are also saying they won't do anything dishonorable before their viewing ancestors, so we're in the green for now. I'll go with Chuck in the cargo bay to hand over the kiddos. I'm having everyone else wait in their rooms until we're fully clear. Aye. Good luck, Simone Thatch, Choknok farewells, as the Terran takes her leave. Chuck holds a canister with the 8 Watathlings in wait, already set in the cargo bay. She is adorned in her golden armor, but for diplomacy's sake does not have her helmet on. She does not wish the incoming Deathworlders to mistake her as any sort of threat. Oh, it seems you are to be with your family soon, she speaks to the young, as if they can understand. Though she sent her tone of voice may provide the context behind her words, as they all begin to swim about with renewed eagerness. Simone then appears through the forward walkway. They should be here soon, all set? The Terran asks as she approaches, noting the still damaged seal on her helmet. I believe so. I'm surprised you decided to not be at all armed. I mean, I'm glad, but, well, surprised, Chuck replies. I doubt we'll be able to fight out of this regardless, and provoking them isn't on my to-do list today. The armor is more to show that we are taking this as seriously as they are, a sign of respect, Simone explains, as she reaches out and takes the Wataf canister from Chuck. Is there a risk of conflict? Even if we do everything correctly? The princess asks. Normally I'd say no, but they have my record, so can't completely rule it out. After some time, the rattling sound of another vessel attaching to the Quipchap's side rings out. All doors are sealed and locked. Opening loading doors now. Chalknock notifies over the comm. Simone releases a slow but long breath in preparation. Here we go, she whispers, as the door clicks and begins to part ways. Before the door can completely open, 2 pairs of fully armed Watath soldiers skitter in and scan the inside of the cargo bay. Thankfully, none raise their weapons directly at the 2 standing in wait. The pairs then part and stand fully at attention for the rest to follow. More soldiers pour in to create parallel barriers for the actual guests to walk through. Eventually, 4 unarmed individuals march in. Despite the presentation entrance, 2 are clearly not of any notable status. Their garments are formal but far from wealthy. The 2 trailing them are dressed a fair bit better, but Simone recognizes them as spiritual leaders of sorts by their drapery and concealing wooden masks that resemble ghastly Watath faces. No doubt they're here to witness a handoff and commit the children to their new guardians. All 4 guarded individuals stop within 10 feet of the Callian Terran. The taller of the 2 more meager Watath eyes the canister with a soft expression, his mind finding itself elsewhere from the sight. The shorter takes the initiative to speak first. I am Queal. This is Riala. He is a brother of Kiras, as I am a brother of Yutias. We are here to accept their children into our care, but we first request that, if Kiras left any personal wills, send those to us first so that we may properly commence the transfer of custody, he says, in an obviously rehearsed manner. Chuck bounces in respect. Of course. The hospital made sure her final will and testament were recorded and logged onto this datapad. You have our word and the datapad's history to prove we have not witnessed its contents. It should contain her credits as well, the Kelly replies, as she pulls the pad out of her satchel and carefully holds it out to the 2. Queal temporarily moves forward, accepting the pad. He activates it and holds it up for Wiala to see as well. Both of their postures slump, as the words of Kiraz softly speak. Brothers, it is a shame that this vessel cannot cast her children into the seas of life without her dear Yutias to carry them on for her. But this vessel hopes she has redeemed her standing with the family's ancestors by finding a path for them to drift to you. It was not easy, but by the greatest of fortunes this vessel was rescued of her plight. A Terran warrior, if you could believe it, has secured their passage to you. Please treat her as well as she has treated this vessel and her children. This vessel knows many Watath souls weep at the cost of war, but so does hers. She is honorable, and no harm must befall her or her companions. For the shamans, the hospital agreed to record the birth for you to witness. It should play after these words, as should what this vessel wishes for her children. She promises to help guide you when you sail to the crossing as well. It is all this vessel can offer in return for your aid. Thank you. What follows is very familiar to Simone. From her entrance into the hospital room, to her talks with the dying mother, and her butchered words of guiding Kiraz past the crossing. She is sailing with the ancestors. They found her, one of the shaman announces to the 2 brothers, who in return hiss in profound relief. The 2 briefly embrace, both shaking while still watching the pad. Riala, however, looks directly at Simone. Are you this same Terran? He asks in a crying hiss. Simone nods before carefully removing her helmet with a single arm, the Watathlings still in the other. She drops the helmet to the floor, so she can hold the canister in both secure hands. Yes, I'm sorry we couldn't be here sooner. We ran into unforeseen circumstances, she states, blinking away at the built-up moisture in her eyes. You have our eternal gratitude regardless. I have read your records, and feared who I was to stand in front of, but your care for Kiraz and her children have eased my soul. Thank you, Simone Thatch, warrior of Terrans, he responds. Knowing how much that actually meant coming from a Watath, Simone nods again, not trusting the tightening in her throat. Riala returns his eyes back to the pad, and reads along with Queal. There's a flash of confusion in their demeanour, but that quickly fades away as the rest of the finalizing text completes. They turn and begin to whisper to the 2 shaman, who take what they have to say a little less acceptingly. That is a big risk, one responds not too quietly. A risk Kiraz deems acceptable. If she sails with the ancestors, then her judgment is final, Queal asserts. The 2 shaman hesitantly agree, though their demeanour shows that they are not proud of what's to come. Oh, is there an issue? Chuck inquires gently. Step forward, Simone Thatch, Terran warrior, a shaman directs, ignoring the question. Taking a short inhale, the redhead complies. She mindfully steps up to the two caretakers and holds up the canister for someone to take. Both do indeed take hold of it, but their manipulator appendages press on top of both Simone's hands to signify for her to remain in the transfer ritual. Two additional and far larger canisters are hovered in by the shaman. One opens them up at the top, while the other comes up to open the one held by 3 individuals. By the will of the Honourable Vassal Kiraz, and decree by the speakers of the ancestors, 3 children are to be under the care of Quayal. Do you accept this, and swear before the ancestors that they will grow and learn the waves of the great sea under your guidance? The closer shaman annoys. Under my sails they shall be strong, Quayal answers. Your guardianship is hereby granted, the shaman proclaims, before darting their appendages like spears into the canister. Snatching a selected 3, they are handed off to the other present shaman to place into one of the large containers. By the will of the Honourable Vessel Kiraz, and decree by the speakers of the ancestors, 4 children are to be under the care of Wayala. Do you accept this, and swear before the ancestors that they will grow and learn the waves of the great sea under your guidance? They repeated to the other brother. Under my sails, they shall be strong, Wayala agrees. Your guardianship is hereby granted. Simone narrows her eyes as 4 more are taken in an identical precision fashion to the opposing container, leaving the runt. By the will of the Honourable Vessel Kiraz, and decree by the speakers of the ancestors, 1 child is to be under the care of Simone Thatch, Terran warrior. Do you accept this, and swear before the ancestors that they will grow and learn the waves of the great sea under your guidance? The shaman asks, in the same manner towards Simone. She feels her mouth go dry instantly. Never had she felt more put on the spot in her entire life. Glancing around to the Watath before her, the redhead's heart begins to panic. I'm sorry, what? She says. Kiaraz wishes for you to take care of the one she gifted your name to, Wayala informs. That's really not a good idea. I don't exactly live in the safest conditions for a kid, Simone starts to argue. Kiraz saw you fit, and strong enough despite that, so neither of us can accept the child, Quayal explains in an almost pleading manner. This is not something we can defy. Reject the child, and no one can claim guardianship, for they will be rejected by the ancestors. Simone is a breath away from calling out an entire species' religion and culture as bullshit, if that meant utterly abandoning a helpless kid, but she feels a pressure on her hip. Looking to the side, she sees Chuck pressed up against her. She speaks no words, but her expression is one of full acceptance and granting of permission. The Terran then reflexively turns her eyes to the remaining Watathlings, who was off fucking course, gazing up at Simone directly. Perhaps she should have given their understanding capabilities more credit. Fucking damn it all. Fine, under my sails, they will be strong, she speaks, knowing that she really has little choice. No way in hell is she going to abandon her kid like the others would. Your guardianship is hereby granted, the shaman says, as they seal the canister back up. The 2 other guardians then release their grips on Simone and the canister, surrendering the final child to her. We know it may be unfair, but that's how the waters can be. It is something we all must weather. Thank you, Quayal says in appreciative relief. Yeah, Simone responds, pulling the canister up closer. But you are not alone. From this moment on, we consider you sister. If you are to sink beneath the waves, one of us will comfort the child if needed. Regardless, you are family, and will be welcomed in our homes. Our family verification codes will be sent before your departure. I'm sorry, that's all we can offer in return, Wayala assures. Has this ever happened before? Chuck finally speaks up, now that the ritual seems complete. It is rare for another species to be officially granted guardianship, but not unheard of. For a Terran, however, this is a first, a shaman informs before taking their leave. Wayala then picks out a small tube and sticks one of his fangs into the cork-like seal. Within a standard second, it's filled with a clear fluid. He ensures the top reseals properly before holding it out to the Cali. So that you may produce a precise anti-venom for when the child is growing from the waters. Children won't bite unless their life is threatened, but accidents are not out of the realm of possibility, he explains. Chuck accepted gratefully. Thank you, Wayala. Rest assured that the child is in the safest Terran hands in all the galaxy, she replies. I believe that to be the truth. Farewell. May our tides cross again. All the Watath then exit the Quipchap in a near-reverse presentation. The first to enter, now the final to leave. As the door sills click shut, Simone still stands in disbelief. "Holy shit," she mutters, as reality fully sinks in. "Congratulations, ha! Chandler declares as he raises a mug of brew to the new parent. The whole crew now reconvened in the mess hall to celebrate not only a successful transport, but also an unexpected adoption. "What is its name?" Mickey asks, putting her face up close to the clear canister. The now lone child within presses their face back in playful mimicry. "Simone," the Terran answers, with her face in her hands. "The same name as you? Is that normal for Terran offspring?" Nodrin inquires. Sighing, Simone drags her face up and out of her hands to address the rest of the crew. "Sometimes. But to avoid confusion, I'm going to call them Junior, or maybe SJ, whatever sticks," she clarifies. "SJ, I like it," Mickey says as she taps the canister. "Do you think you are ready for this sort of commitment?" Vin pipes up. "Shouldn't I be asking you if I am?" The redhead shoots back in jest. "Well, not like I have a choice, but yeah, I think I am." Her eyes move from the Wataf to her fiancé. "Does that change anything?" she asks. In response, the Kelly scoots even closer and hugs the Terran. "Not a thing," she chirps pleasantly. Simone nods with a warm smile and stands from the table. "All right, I guess I'm doing this. All right, I'm going to go check and see if Seven needs any help with the grub," she dismisses herself. Chuck endearingly washes her leave before feeling a super light tapping on her shoulder from Mickey. "Could I ask you a personal question?" the Grass says. "Oh, depending on the question, but I'm open to hear it," the princess replies. "Simone is like your bondmate, correct?" Mickey asks, although clearly further questions are primed. "I believe that's accurate to say, yes," Chuck answers. "So, you were intimate? I'm curious how that would work. Is it not physical for your species? If it is, how were you not harmed from the experience?" Mickey questions. "Oh, it's certainly physical. We are just very careful," the Kelly attempts to explain through her shyness. "I see. I'm sure you may have already considered this, but it bothers me. Is there a reason why you can't modify your make yourself stronger armor to make the experience safer?" Mickey bluntly points out. "Oh, no, you see, well, we would need to... I'm certain we... Chuck's voice trails off as her eyes grow brighter and brighter. She stands up from the table. "Excuse me, please. Simone!" she calls out, practically prancing to the kitchen door. Meek then slowly turns back to Nodrin with a devilish grin. "Told you," she sniggers.